The opinions expressed on this program are solely those of individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of either Spectrum Generations or Time Warner Cable. Mature Lifestyle is made possible by Hollywood Casino. There's no place like Hollywood. And by Knowlton Hewins Roberts Funeral Homes and Cremation Service. Our homes are warm and welcoming, and we take care of you and your family like we would our own. Call us anytime. We are here for you.
Welcome to Mature Lifestyles. Spectrum Generations has a variety of programs that really speak to the things that matter to us. And this is a very special program. I'm reading the shirt of one of my guests. It says, Keeping the Promise, and we're talking about honoring our heroes, our veterans. And in November with Veterans Day, but every day is Veterans Day to these two guests of ours today. And we're going to talk about programs and services, but more importantly, we're going to celebrate and honor these heroes. And I have two heroes sitting right here. And I'm going to embarrass them a little bit because I think they are heroes. But I was joking with them. They're both in the Navy. And as the wife of a Marine, I want to know why the Navy is dominating this discussion. And I was reminded that it's the Navy that gives the Marine the ride to where they're going. And I've heard that before. First, I'd like to welcome Sandra Smith. And Sandra has on her shirt, it's the shirt I've been talking about, the Vet Centers, which is a very important thing happening in Maine, much to offer, and it's the shirt that says Keeping the Promise. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you.
And then, of course, another man who sounds like he travels more around this state than anyone else I know because he does outreach. It's James Doherty, Communications and what is your title? Relations at the VA Center. And you're everywhere because you're reaching out to veterans, making sure they know they're important. And also, guess what? We have things that might be of interest to you. So hopefully at the end of this program, they're going to know you and they're going to know what's out there and how much we appreciate them. So I'm going to start with you, Sandra. You are a Navy veteran. Tell me a little bit about how you got into the Navy and what you did there.
Well, I was a little bit of a late, I wasn't 18, I was 29 when I decided to go into the Navy. Family history of sea service. I chose to be in aviation in the Navy and was stationed in Brunswick.
What did you do before you went into the Navy?
I managed a bookstore.
Okay.
And I'm proud to say I had the best military history section in the state.
So it was always of interest to you.
Always.
So you had management experience and then you chose aviation in the Navy.
Ended up getting transferred, I'm originally from New Orleans, transferred to the Brunswick Naval Air Station and was stationed there for 4.5 years, deploying out of there with one of the squadrons.
Mm-hmm. And tell me a little bit, while we're talking about you and your experience, you've also chosen now to help these vet centers serve veterans. What is the vet center and where, you're in Lewiston, I think?
Yes.
And tell me about the vet center, not only in Lewiston, but are there others and what do they offer for our veterans?
Well, the vet center system, it's sometimes when people say the words vet center, they interpret that, they might mean togas, they might mean a medical clinic, they might mean a lot of different things. They just say vet center, it's sort of a catch-all. Mm-hmm. But the actual vet center system is officially called Readjustment Counseling Service. We are the VA, but we're sort of our own little chain of command.
Okay.
We've existed since 1979 and originally created to provide counseling in the communities for Vietnam veterans who weren't comfortable necessarily going to the big VA. Since then, Maine has 5. There are 300 vet centers across the country and in various territories. The main vet centers are Sanford, Portland, Lewiston, Bangor, and Caribou.
Wonderful.
We are readjustment counseling. That's our official name. And when we say readjustment, it can be anxiety about coming home, marital issues when you get back, for the current
right, to re-enter your life.
Yeah, exactly. And readjustment covers a whole lot of things. It was originally Vietnam veterans, but over the years the eligibility has expanded to include World War II, Korea, pretty much anyone who served in a combat zone.
Anyone who served in a combat
So
zone.
our eligibility
So
is,
do you have a lot of Iraq veterans and
Oh, yes.
Afghanistan now, as well as
Yes.
Vietnam?
Yes, and our eligibility is a little bit different than the big VA. You have to have served.
The big VA is TOGUS.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, it benefits and medical. We're not medical.
Right,
we're
you're
just
not a
mental health.
hospital. You're mental health.
Mental health.
Got it. Okay.
So in order to have, you have to have served in a war zone, and since that original concept, it's expanded to include anyone who has experienced sexual harassment or military sexual trauma while on active duty. We also do bereavement counseling for the immediate family of those families who have lost
Sure.
someone on active duty.
I didn't realize that the families themselves can
Yes.
partake of these services.
Yes.
Okay, and there are 5 in Maine.
Yes.
And the eligibility is simply to have, not simply, to have been in a combat zone. And
Right,
so-
but the
right.
military sexual trauma and the bereavement counseling, it doesn't have to have been in a combat zone.
Bereavement could be broader than that.
It could be someone who possibly died in a car accident.
Sure.
Or, stationed in Illinois or something.
Well, that's fascinating. Now, she called you the big VA, which is TOGUS. You want to talk about that a minute, Jim?
Sure. There's 3 parts of VA. When people go ahead and when they're first dealing with us, they think it's just one VA, and it is one VA, but there's 3 sections to it.
Right.
The Cemetery Administration, the Healthcare Administration, which is what I work for, and what that is we take care of all the healthcare needs of the veterans. And then there's the Veterans Benefits Administration, which what they do is they do all non-medical benefits, such as compensation, pension, disability, home loans, insurance, education. And so
So it's just a wealth of things out there.
Right.
And you deal with all 3?
I deal mostly with the healthcare side.
Mostly
I
with
work,
the
I
healthcare.
work, pretty
You would know
closely
how
with
to
the
help
benefits.
someone go into the other area, but you
exactly.
deal mostly with the healthcare.
Right.
Want to talk to us a bit about that? What's
Sure.
available to our veterans?
Basically, if they're enrolled, they can have any health care. The only thing that has a restriction on it is dental. Dental, you have to be service-connected for a dental condition, or be 100% disabled, or be a former POW. But
Okay.
other than that, they can receive all of their care through
All
us.
their care through
Right.
you.
And what we do is at TOGUS, it's basically the mothership. That's where we have all the specialty care. We have primary care and everything else there, but that's where all the specialty care, or almost all of it is. And then what we have is located around the state, since this is, state is so big.
So big.
What we've done is we've really been pushing on the rural health for veterans. And so we've got 8 full-time outpatient clinics that provide
didn't
primary
realize that.
care, mental health, and lab. And those are located in Bangor, Calais, Caribou, Lewiston, Auburn, Lincoln, Portland, Rumford, and Saco.
And they offer mental health care and
Primary care and
primary
lab.
care
And lab.
and lab.
And those are full-time. They're Monday to Friday.
Wow.
And then we also have 3 part-time clinics that are located in Bingham, Holton, and Fort Kent.
That's
So
extraordinary.
we've got them all out there. We're trying to provide the services as close to the veteran as possible.
That's really important, isn't it?
Right.
Because
And one of the other things we're doing to try and do that is we're really spooling up on telehealth, to where they'll be able to go ahead and work with somebody, at one of these outpatient clinics, video teleconferencing with someone, down at TOGUS in one of the specialties and all.
And
So
is this happening now, or it's
we're starting it
beginning?
up. We're starting it up now over in our new Lewiston clinic. We're doing a center of excellence for telehealth, where we're going to be teaching our providers the best practices for
Wonderful.
doing that.
Wonderful. Who's eligible for health care?
It depends.
Okay.
The eligibility, we could talk about that for a long
All
time.
right.
But
Maybe you could
basically,
just give us
if-
the high
sure.
points, and if they want more information, they
Yeah,
can call.
They had to have served, depending upon when they served, there's different time
I understand.
criteria. If they're service-connected, they're automatically eligible for care.
Service-connected, automatic.
Right, and then if they're not service-connected, but they meet the time in service and the type of discharge, they have to have
Okay.
honorable.
So we don't have to learn all that today, but we need to know that it's worth asking.
It is
you
worth
might be
asking.
eligible
Right.
for
Well,
these programs.
What I tell people is that, besides the enrollment, but all these different benefits that are out there, and the benefits are growing and growing, they really are, is that you may not be eligible for some, this benefit or that benefit, but if you don't apply for it, I guarantee you're not going to get it.
Exactly.
So that's what I tell them is go ahead and make the effort. It's not that hard, and the benefits are definitely worth it.
Now, I heard you say that you travel from Caribou to Kittery, I suppose, all over the state. What do you do when you go out and about to carry this message?
What I do is I go ahead and I'll get an invite from some group of veteran service organization, or sometimes the state one, like when mills are closing, we'll go ahead and we'll go around
Find
and do
out
an
if the
outreach
veterans
there.
need any special help from
Exactly.
those layoffs, okay?
And so what we do there is I go ahead and I bring along a lot of materials, and typically we'll have somebody from the vet centers come, and we'll go ahead and we'll tell them about the benefits that they're entitled to. We'll encourage them to go ahead and apply for them. We have all the paperwork and everything like that, and try to get them in there. One of the things I tell veterans too is apply now. Don't wait until down the road, because like when the mills closed up at Lincoln and Brewer about 7 years ago, those veterans had
Weren't
come
ready.
back from different conflicts. They took off uniform. They had great benefits at the mill, but then when the mill went away, they didn't have anything. So even if you're not using us, you can be enrolled, and you can use us exclusively, you can not use us at all, or we co-manage on a regular basis. But that way a veteran has that for them. And it's important to remember too is that VA healthcare are services, not health insurance. It doesn't have the portability where you could just go
Okay.
to a provider out in town and say, send the bill
It's
to
at,
VA.
you go to Togus or to
Togus
one of the
Or
centers.
to one of the clinics, right.
Right.
And what'll happen sometimes is if we don't have the service,
Then
we'll
you
go
might.
ahead and we will send them out there. It'll be pre-approved, and we will pay for that.
And for some very serious services, you partner with other centers, like in Massachusetts and Roxbury, for
Yes,
example,
we do.
for
Yes, we
those
do.
services. Now, when you say you have all the specialty services, you treat cancer, you treat, you do surgical procedures, so there's almost
Surgical
everything you do.
procedures. About the only thing that we don't do is invasive cardiac procedures.
Okay.
Because we don't do enough of them and all. But we do have cardiology there, so we can do
Right.
the workups, and then after
And
they
refer you
have
to the
that-
appropriate place.
Right, and then after they come back, we'll do the aftercare.
I know you have a good emergency room there.
We do. We do. As a matter of fact, we just did a mass casualty drill. That we went ahead and did it with the community that came in, and we worked with Maine General, Central Maine Medical Center, and all.
There's a lot of partnering, isn't there?
There is.
That's really important.
There is.
And also medications. Veterans are eligible through Togus and maybe the centers to get medications.
Exactly. Yeah, medications are $9 for a 30-day supply, whatever they are. We don't have the three-tiered system. Once they start receiving the medication, then they can get a 90-day supply
By
in
mail.
the mail. It'll come in the mail. They can renew it online. They can renew it. There's a toll-free number, 24/7 they can do it, or they can drop off the slip, and it'll just show up. For heavy-duty narcotics, it's a 30-day supply, and
Right.
then that comes by FedEx or UPS, whoever we have the contract at that time.
Well, thank you both for what you do for veterans. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back with some more important information.
This is the new Hollywood. Hollywood Casino, featuring the heart-pounding action of live table games with Vegas-style blackjack, roulette, poker, and more. Now playing at the place where the fun never stops. From the thrill seekers to the blockbuster winners, here you've got the lead role, because there's no place like Hollywood.
Spectrum Generations. Live healthy, live well. Get answers, get connected. Spectrum Generations, specializing in the art of aging.
Life should be celebrated. It's a special day when family and friends gather together to celebrate the life of a loved one. A celebration of life helps us honor our loved one and keep our memories alive. Whether you're planning a traditional funeral, a creative celebration of life, or a blend of both, at Knowlton Hewins Roberts, we are truly committed to meet the personal and unique needs of you and your family. Knowlton Hewins Roberts. Visit us online or visit our 2 locations in Augusta and Winthrop.
Welcome back to Mature Lifestyles. We're celebrating American heroes. We're celebrating our veterans, not just in November, though it is the time to do that, but all the time. And we have 2 extraordinary leaders, 2 veterans themselves, who have dedicated their lives to making sure that veterans know all the things that are out there to help them. We were talking during the break about the people you see in the vet centers. What about post-traumatic stress syndrome that we hear so much about on the media? What about people who are coming to you? Do you see a lot of that, and if so, what can you do? Well,
Post-traumatic stress disorder, and I don't mean to be funny when I say this, but they really don't call it post for nothing.
Oh, right.
It's a condition. It's a cluster of symptoms.
Yes.
Where a person may be hyper alert. They may have difficulty sleeping. They may avoid things that they used to enjoy doing, maybe fireworks or anything that might remind them.
Oh,
but the variables, when a person comes back from a war, and this is World War II to our current deployments, whether or not a person is going to develop post-traumatic stress syndrome symptoms is based on a lot of different factors. It depends on if the person may have experienced trauma as a child beforehand. That may predispose a person. Mm-hmm. The length of deployments, the number of deployments that people are doing now. I know the World War II generation, they were in for the duration plus 6. So if they went in 41, they were in for 4.5 years. And a lot of that time, if they were frontline troops, they were in combat for hundreds of days.
Wow.
So
now, what's the average length of time in combat for the Iraq and
that varies.
Afghanistan theater?
Usually it's about 6 months. The Navy deployments are about 6 months. The Marine deployments are 7.
Right.
Air Force can range anywhere from a month to a year. Army deployments are generally a year.
Right. So it happens, and often more than once. It's just not as long as World War II, as you were talking about, but nevertheless, the impact is heavy.
And a real important part, and this the World War II and Korean and Vietnam generations can appreciate, is you spend so much time on a deployment looking forward to going home. I just can't wait to get back home. And there's this assumption that when they get home, everything will just go back to normal. And they get home and they're excited and yay, and there's sort of a honeymoon period and things are good, and people will say that things are fine. Yeah, they're so glad to be home and see their kids and all those things. But as time goes on, they start noticing that they're not feeling like they're fitting in quite as well, or I know the World War II and Korea generations were more apt to just be, they didn't talk about it. Everyone was in the service in World War II. So why do you want to talk about it? We just lived through it.
We all went through it, yes.
So post-traumatic stress disorder, the symptoms can come on at any time. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. People sometimes are very hard on themselves when they start having memories come back or nightmares, and they say, I don't know why this is still bothering me. It was 60 years ago. But there's no time limit. For our aging population, veteran population, there's a lot of things that can trigger old memories. Retirement, if you've been a workaholic your whole life to keep your mind busy and stay active,
not
and all
thinking
of a sudden,
about those experiences
exactly,
of war.
all of a sudden you've got way too much time on your hands. Or if you suffer a loss, a spouse, or even loss of ability, you lose your driver's license, if you feel more vulnerable, those emotions, those changes,
they come back to the surface.
They can trigger the old memories. There's more and more evidence now that concussions, traumatic brain injuries. There was a lot of the current research is, of course, being done on our current veterans, but we can't help but look at our World War II, Korea, and Vietnam vets and wonder, maybe, how much of the maybe dementia type things that we see in older veterans are a result of undiagnosed concussions.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you both, we talked about this a little earlier. Vietnam vets came home to a very different welcome, if you will. And yet, people have now reached out to make sure that doesn't happen to our young men and women in Iraq or Afghanistan. Do you want to talk about the differences of what you see both in medical treatment and mental health treatment for that, and how that's beginning to be erased a bit anyway?
One of the things that the Vietnam vets made as one of their priorities is to go ahead and make sure that the veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan didn't get the same type of welcome home, if you could call it a welcome, coming home.
A coming home.
And so they want them to be actually
Which is important to your mental health, to reintegrate with your families and that sort of thing, isn't it?
Exactly. And so what they've done is they've advocated quite a bit. They go out and they talk to the veterans, they talk to them, veteran to veteran, and explain, besides the outreach I'm doing, a lot of the outreach where people get their information from are other veterans. The other veterans also have credibility.
And they do, don't they? I
They do.
noticed that peer support is probably more important, or as important as anything, isn't it?
Oh, exactly.
Because they've been there, they get it.
Well, that's why the veterans, when you give the majority of veterans, if you give them a choice between seeing a civilian provider and coming and having it at their medical at the big VA, or coming to see us, that is one of the draws.
That's very important, isn't
is
it?
the camaraderie, that sense of family that you have in the service.
And it is that, isn't it? Jim, I know we all know people who've come home from the wars missing a limb or whatever, and yet there's extraordinary programs, and we've watched heroic activities of people going on with their lives. Can you talk to us a bit about your adaptive sports program and the kinds of things you've seen happen because of our focus on making sure people have as normal a life as possible?
And that's what it's all about. The one that we had in there that was running it, program, she called it No Boundaries. And that's what we do, is it's adaptive sports. We go ahead and we try to work with them to show them that they can do anything that they want to. They can maximize their lives. It may be a little bit more difficult, but they can do whatever they want. We went ahead and we were running scuba programs at Togus. We had blind, we had amputees, we had one that was a partial paraplegic, and they went in, they did that. Some of them went out and did open water certification and got their cards. Then we also go ahead and we take them fishing, adaptive bowling. We've taken them whitewater rafting, skiing over in New Hampshire and out in Colorado. And so they can do whatever.
So there really are no boundaries as you are opening these doors.
There's no boundaries.
And that requires good medicine too, doesn't it, in terms of good prosthetics and that sort of thing. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Sure. On the prostheses that we've got some state-of-the-art prostheses. VA has been involved with Department of Defense in a number of these different initiatives, including recently prosthetic ankles and all, which are something that's new. But you've seen during the Olympics where we had some people competing on blades.
Running.
Running, and it had to be determined, could they do that or did they have an unfair advantage? So,
interesting, isn't it? What a wonderful question.
They do, and they've got arms now that they can go ahead and hook up to the nerves, and they can get some range of motion back with that. And it's not just the new veterans that are coming home, because what happens typically is they'll be down at Walter Reed Bethesda, and that's where they'll go ahead and get the limbs, and they'll learn how to use them and stuff like that. But then also veterans, as they become older, just like the general population, they get diabetes. And with the circulatory problems, they can lose a leg, below the knee, above the knee, or whatever. And in those cases, we go ahead and we fit them with prostheses as well, because it doesn't make any difference. If it's a young veteran or an older veteran, they're all veterans, and we want to take care of all of them.
Extraordinary progress. And please stay tuned, because there's a bit more to talk about with our wonderful veterans. So please stay tuned for more of Mature Lifestyle.
Spectrum Generations. Live healthy, live well. Get answers, get connected. Spectrum Generations, specializing in the art of aging.
This is the new Hollywood. Hollywood Casino, featuring the heart-pounding action of live table games with Vegas-style blackjack, roulette, poker, and more. Now playing at the place where the fun never stops. From the thrill seekers to the blockbuster winners, here you've got the lead role, because there's no place like Hollywood.
Welcome back to Mature Lifestyles. So much to talk about in so little time. I'm going right to you, Sandra. Talk to me a little bit about the World War II veterans who had a special message for you.
I run a World War II group. We also
Yes.
have a Korean War group. We have anger management groups. We have a variety. At any given moment, we probably have at least a dozen different groups going. They are by invitation, so we like to meet with people first to see if they're appropriate for it. We have a significant other group. But the World War II group, I met with them yesterday, and I asked them if they had anything special they wanted to, that they would want me to say. And they said that, you know, it takes courage to ask for help, and that is one of our mottos is that it takes the courage of a warrior to ask for help. But the other thing they said is, you know, I asked them, what would have kept you from coming in? Mm-hmm. And they said, well, PTSD is an invisible wound, and it's invisible, so don't draw attention to it. So that keeps people out. Pride keeps people from coming in. Our services, we are free. There's no time limit on them. They wanted me to reach out and make sure that it's never too late to feel better or to deal with the issues that they still carry.
That's perfect, Sandra. Jim, that's a great segue to you because you wanted people to call and ask. But very quickly, tell us about some of the adaptive
Just a follow-up
equipment.
on
Yes,
that. I
please,
tell people,
yes.
don't suffer in silence.
Don't
do
suffer in
something about it.
silence. Just
But what
call and ask.
Right. What I encourage people to do is if you've got friends, if you've got family members or anybody else, go ahead and get them to come to the VA. They may have tried it years and years ago, and it's not your father's VA. It's not the same place it used to be.
It's
It's
different.
a quality organization.
And you also help with daily living. You may need to have your bathroom remodeled, right? You can do adaptive arrangements for that to make sure that life is full.
That's what we want. We want them to live the most productive life that they can. If they have disabilities, we want to go ahead and minimize those. We want them to have a good life. They've done a lot for the country, and they've earned it.
And so really it's all about honoring them, and don't be afraid to ask. You deserve this. We want veterans to have this. It's something we're very proud to offer. They're very lucky to have the two of you. You're both veterans. Any parting words of wisdom?
Contact us.
Contact you. And you can call the Big Center, VA.
The Big VA.
All right, or you can call Spectrum Generations, and thank you for joining us. And please join all of us in celebrating our veterans.
Mature Lifestyle is made possible by Hollywood Casino. There's no place like Hollywood. And by Knowlton Hewins Roberts Funeral Homes and Cremation Service. Our homes are warm and welcoming, and we take care of you and your family like we would our own. Call us anytime. We are here for you.
You're watching TWC TV, only on Time Warner Cable.